All right. Well, today I'm looking at the printers behind me, and it's time to do some maintenance. These I've had for quite a while. These are the Ender 3 Pros, and they've been modified. I did all this before I ever decided to start filming and starting this new channel, so I'm already at the point where it needs some maintenance. Now, before, I've always gone through and you can dust stuff off and get clean off all the little fragments from the filament and stuff that drops off, stuff like that, and it's a good idea to do that. But this time, let me show you what I'm going to look at. I decided, it's time to check for the belt tensioning, and I want to check the X rails and make sure that everything's still all tight and snug and all that good stuff. And this is what I found. If you look real close, you can see this end does move up and down a little more than I'd like. Now this is kind of common. It will move a little bit because I only have that single Z-rod going up one side, right? And that's the purpose of having one on each side. And when you have we see some guys that are upgrading with and putting two Z-rods on, that's to get rid of that. You can see it's just, this is in place and it's pivoting there. Well, when I went and looked at this one's a little tighter. It felt a little tighter than this one. So I'll probably go up here and tighten that little tighten the nut here and make sure it's all good and smooth. And yeah, so you need to tighten this eccentric nut here, and that'll tighten up here. And one way you can kind of tell and see if it's tight enough or not tight enough, you can see if you can barely just turn these wheels, right? And this one I can turn also. On this side, yeah, this one's snug like it should. It's really hard to, so you can see when I'm turning the wheel, it's actually moving the whole X carriage down. With this one, no, it's kind of just slipping. So I'm going to tighten that up. Looking down here at the belts, this one, it seems okay, right? I'll probably still tighten it up a bit. This one, yeah, this one's a little looser, so I think I'll be tightening this one up for sure. And you can see, let's see, the Ys look okay. Well, this one I'll probably still tighten up, but you can see I have not upgraded these up to this point. I never put in these belt tensioners and stuff because for so long that, well, they're good as they are, right? And it was not that big of an upgrade. But now that I'm having to go in and tighten them up, well, I might as well do the upgrade and put on some tensioners so it'll be easier next time, And that's kind of what I've done with these, over the past year or two, however long I did it. I've been modifying these as time goes by. With this one, the wheel, it's not like I can turn it freely, but listen to this, if you can hear it. You can hear that? This whole X carriage here is moving. I can hear it. And so this one I'll probably have to take off the shelf. I'll put it on the desk and we can take a look. Yeah, so tightening up this, it's fairly easy. Just take the little wrench that came with the assembly. You can see that just that one little slight turn tightens it up. Maybe a tiny bit more. And I can feel everything's pretty tight. Now this one, I know your X carriage here is tight and these wheels are tight, because this is one that I had gotten from a guy. I guess he was trying it for the first time and he gave up on it. And you know, I wish that I could have told him what he was doing wrong, because it was just on assembly and adjusting everything. Everything was off. I mean, this thing was just rattling around. This was very loose. I mean, everything was just rattling around. He just didn't put it together the way it should. Even you can see even this post right here. The power supply looks like it's mounted way up high, right, as compared to down here on these other Ender 3s. And it's because this post is upside down. It should have been flipped over, and then your power supply would have been mounted down here where it should have been. But that's just an example. Just everything I had to go in and tighten. Just tighten every bolt, every, you know, check and make sure everything was square. It was like I just reassembled it. But these are still pretty tight. They're, you know, I don't feel any jiggling. And if there is, it's just that same thing, just that one eccentric nut, and you go in there and tighten it down. And you don't want it too tight. You don't want it to bind, right? You just don't want it to move. You don't want it to jiggle, you know. Yeah, so this one I'll probably tighten too, but I'll probably come back, because I am going to take this out and put it on the table over here, so that we can see where that rattling is coming from, and we'll go ahead and tighten everything down. I'm kind of surprised. This thing has been printing like a charm, right? And that's what I like about all these upgrades I did. After the upgrades, I can put on a long print and walk away and not have to worry about it, right? They're printing fantastic and very reliable. So I just want to make these adjustments and make sure that it stays that way, right? So I'm tightening these belts. You see, it's so easy. This isn't an upgrade that I was going to rush into. It's not that important. It might be a little convenient to put those to print off a tensioner, which you can hear this printer down below. It is printing right now. Let's say one of these, you know, you see that mount in like this, and you can just turn the knob and tighten it up and all that good stuff. But well, you just, you know, loosen these two up, push it back, and tighten them back up. I mean, it's really no big deal, and it's tight enough. I mean, you don't have to. I've seen some guys that really tighten them up where it sounds like a banjo wire, and all you're doing is putting a lot of pressure on the axle of the motor. Say with the motor like this, when it's mounted, and you're pulling the cord this way, and if you put too much pressure, I mean, you're putting you see the mowing arm that's on here, and it'll tighten it up, and it just lessens the lifetime of the motor, right? And of course, the longer the axle, then, you know, the larger the mowing arm, because some of them have dual drive pulleys, or one that's set way out here, and I mean, you're just increasing it. But you see what I mean. With this, it's just pretty easy to tighten it up. But you can see I am printing off a set, and I'll try it on one of them. If they're okay, then I'll go ahead and do them all. But in the meantime, I'm just going to tighten these belts. I think the Y on this one is fairly tight, the X is now tight, and the wheel is now tight. So, alright, here's this third one. This is the one I had on the bottom shelf there, and moved it over here so we can kind of find out what is making the rattle here. Yeah, you can see how this is, how loose that is. And I noticed this too. I laid it down on the flat table. You can see it's rocking back and forth. So I need to look at the feet under here, make sure they're okay, and maybe this frame isn't lined up properly. I don't know, but we're going to look at that, fix that, and figure out why this is moving up and down so much. Before then we'll come back and then we'll tighten the belts. But yeah, this is pretty strange, isn't it? I'd never noticed it before. Let me go from this other angle here. Let's see, these just spinning around. Because it feels like the problem's here on the Z-rod. Yes, this whole assembly is moving up and down. So is it down here? No, here it is. So, that little brass, can you see that? Let me get a close look at it. So right here, see how much that's moving? That's a lot of backlash on that, on this bushing here. So that's probably the problem. I need to find a replacement. This is brass. It looks like it's been damaged somehow. Guess I never noticed it before because gravity's keeping it down. You know, it's not like it's vertical. If it was vertical, you'd see the backlash big time. But with this, or what I mean, if it was horizontal, you'd see the backlash big time. But vertical, the gravity's keeping it down. So it was kind of, I never noticed it until I started checking the belts and all that good stuff. So I'll have to get a replacement on that. But now what happened? Now the rocking stopped. Nope, there it is. Nope, that looks fine. So it must be something with the table. The table must be warped. And I will double check it. I don't have another table to put this on. Alright, well, let me look in my box of goodies. I really doubt if I have a replacement for this. I'll just have to order it. And so while it's out, let's tighten up the belts. Yeah, this one's not too bad anyway, but let's go ahead and tighten it up a bit. Let me see if I can get a little tighter. There we go. Yeah, that's a little better. You don't need it too tight, but that feels about right. Mucho better. Let's see. Is this one moving? This one's kind of moving back and forth a little bit here too. So let's see if we can tighten up this. See, there's the eccentric nut, and you just need to tighten it up a bit. And nope. All right. Oh, that's much better. Alright, so I'll just order that one little part right there, that little brass fitting, and it should be ready to go. I'll look in my box of goodies. I doubt if I have an extra, but I'd be lucky if I did. Alright, I think that's just about got it. Before I put it up, I want to go back and check all the wheels, make sure there's a lot of dust and debris on them. They look pretty clean. Usually, like on the sides of the wheels, you'll see a buildup. Especially if it's on too tight, the wheels will actually start to grind away over time. And either that, or if your house is usually pretty dusty, sometimes it gets dusty in here. We have a lot of dogs and cats. Sometimes there's cat hair everywhere. But even under here, under the bed, make sure your wheels are clean and everything's looking good. I think it's ready to put back in the rack, and it's ready to print again. In the meantime, I'll get the part that's needed there. Yeah, so one thing I didn't show you was checking the nozzles, because I had just worked on these probably a week or two ago, and this bottom one's the one I experiment with, and another one down here, but I'm usually switching between a 0.4 and 0.6 nozzle. These are always at 0.4, and they're just pumping out production parts, so they're usually in pretty good shape, but it always helps to check them out. One thing that I did run into, I believe it was this very first machine I had. Now I checked the nozzles looking at the part, and it looked like it was it looked like it was printing great, right? This is the part right here. This wasn't the one I was dealing with at the time, but so this piece is part of an assembly, and it is weight balanced, right? It needs to be symmetrical, kind of like this. Here's a prototype, and you see the way it's rocking back and forth, so it needs to be, equal material, equal weight on each side. It needs to be balanced, basically. And for a while, this, by the way, is a lawnmower blade balancer, and I'll include a link to it. I sell it on a different site, and I'll include a link to my other YouTube channel and to the website to order one. But it's a lawnmower blade balancer. You put it on there, and I've added a level to it and all that good stuff. But back to this, the parts were looking great, but when I would try to balance everything out and put it in assembly, it was always rocking, back and forth. It was very inconsistent, right? Sometimes, I'd put it on there, instead of being dead balanced, it would be, off on the side. And I was like, well, what the hell? So I went back and checked all my design work. I mean, just, do due diligence trying to find the problem. And it turns out it was the nozzle on one of these machines. And so it wasn't distributing the filament out the same, especially, and I don't know, where it was happening, but apparently the filament was coming out. It would be thick and then thin, then thick, then thin, that kind of thing, right? and it went around, so it was very unbalanced. And that's the way I found the problem, was looking at the nozzle and then noticing what was going on. Changed out the nozzle, and boom, worked like a charm. Everything started to go through production smoothly again. So that was a big lessons learned. And of course, after you do all this, you know, we've looked at the wheels, we made sure everything was tightened up. You clean everything off, check your belts, tighten them up. Whenever you're fooling with all that stuff, you know, check your Bowden tube also. This one, you know, you can see I have the Capricorn tubes on there, so they're withstanding the heat. But after you do all this, anyway, after you do all this, make sure you go back and rehome and, you know, level the bed and all that good stuff. Just go back and recalibrate everything. And other than that, that's about it. So I do a lot of this stuff. I look at on a weekly basis, basically, you know, make sure that there's no debris hanging around, there's nothing wrong with it. But when I go back through and do this whole deal like I did here, it's months, right? And but it always helps just to look at it every once in a while, right? So, but that's about it. That's the way to do it, and that's what to look out for. If I miss anything, definitely let me know. But until then, I guess that's it for this video. So be sure to like, subscribe, and watch for my next video.